Hey guys, it's Stephanie here in South Carolina. Today is Sunday. It's a beautiful day here. I'm ready to do our Disney devotional for the day. Today is number 27 and it is called Jungle Cruise. I kind of feel like I'm on a jungle cruise right now. These birds are so singy today. They're very singy. Is that a word? Exiting the carpets, we again head across the path to another famous attraction, the Jungle Cruise. I love this ride and always have. I remember riding this as a young boy. I hate that it typically has long lines as it is pretty slow loading. For that reason, we typically try to fast pass this one. Jungle Cruise is a boat ride and has been around since day one at Walt Disney World, as well as Disneyland. This is one of the originals that Walt Disney had planned. From 1955 to 1962 at Disneyland, the ride included standard narration describing what you're seeing on your jungle adventure, much like a nature documentary. Starting in 1962, the ride began introducing the pun-type jokes into the spiel and hasn't changed since. If you've ever ridden this ride, you know the kind of puns I'm talking about. Yes, they are super corny, but that's one of the things that makes this ride great and leads to our devotional thought for today. First of all, did you know that Walt Disney originally wanted real animals on this ride? But he was told that all of the animals would be nocturnal and sleeping while the guests were riding. Therefore, Walt decided to incorporate animals he could control, also known as audio animatronics. For the first time, however, there were live alligators in the ride queue at Disneyland. This is also the ride that inspired Walt Disney to view his parks as never complete and always needing change. Apparently, he overheard a young boy ask his mom to ride the Jungle Cruise, and she said, "No, we did that last time we were here." What a great mom. Hearing that, Walt decided that his parks would always need to change and invite people to come back. The water of the Jungle Cruise is a lot cleaner than it looks. Brown dye has been added to make the water look dirty and to conceal the fact that your boat is actually on a track. Another fun fact is that in 2004, one of the boats took on too much water and sank to the bottom. Luckily, the bottom wasn't too far and the boat was recovered and is still in use today. Finally, Disneyland version offers a famous tree just outside the entrance queue. That palm tree dates back to 1896. When the rancher who owned the land sold it to Walt Disney, he requested that this one tree be spared. Walt Disney obliged and had the 15-ton tree moved from the parking lot area to Adventureland, and it survives today. Wow! There are many more fun facts about this ride, but I just don't have the space to write them all. I do want to refer back to what has made this ride famous. It's the jokes. It's the puns. The traditional narration on this ride makes you roll your eyes and groan with laughter, or at least fake laughter to be nice. Since 1962, the ride's tour guides have shown you around the jungle with a script that includes quips and funny lines. Most of them are easy to get, but there are a few that you'll have to think about sometimes. Honestly, many of them are just so stupid that they're funny. As I mentioned, that's one of the main reasons I enjoy this ride so much. I've heard the jokes many, many times, but I always hope to hear a new one each time I ride. What about in the Bible? Do you find jokes or humor there? What about a humor similar to this ride that you have to think about it to see the humor in it? This one particular story in the New Testament that comes to mind when the speaker didn't necessarily mean to be funny, but it ended up being a funny moment. Do you have any idea which story I'm referring to? Take the time to read John chapter 13 to find the story. When Jesus humbly washed his disciples' feet. Jesus showed what it truly means to be a servant by getting up and washing each of his disciples' dirty feet. That's 24 feet in all. When he got to Peter, something very important happened. Peter refused, saying, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus basically replied, telling Peter that unless he was allowed to wash his feet, he would have no part with him. That's when Peter made what I think is funny. He said, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." I've always thought that was kind of funny. And I like to think that Jesus smiled over and even chuckled at his friends in line but the Bible doesn't mention that. Like the Jungle Cruise lines, it was a subtle humor that you have to think about. Peter realized that to be with Christ and to truly follow him, he had to humble himself like Christ and allow the Son of God to wash his feet. So we must also do the same. We have to be humble like Jesus was. We have to wash feet, not literally, but we have to find ways to serve others. At the same time, we also have to allow our feet to be washed. How do we do this? Well, we do this by accepting the words of Christ. We do this by following the words of Christ. We do this by we do this by living like Christ did. We are told in 1 John 2:6 that we are to walk in the same way which he has walked. Are we doing that? I'm asking myself, so you ask yourself. Let's live like he did. When you ride the Jungle Cruise next time, I hope you can enjoy the subtle humor. Maybe even give your tour guide an audible chuckle to make them feel good. Also, take the time to think about Peter. Think about how he made a funny too, and how Christ showed him and all of us what it means to be humble and to walk with him. The end. I hope you enjoyed today's devotional, and I hope you enjoy the Jungle Cruise as we do. We always ride the Jungle Cruise, and my teenagers always roll their eyes, but I enjoy it too.